Here is what no one tells you about moving to New Zealand. Now, I've been living in New Zealand for the last 6 months. I am a 24-year-old from the UK. I spent 2 years in Australia before, and I've been living here in New Zealand on a working holiday visa for the last 6 months. And today I'm gonna uncover some things which they do not tell you before you move to New Zealand. Some points which I maybe didn't expect, or maybe I did expect them, but they were worse than I thought. For you guys who maybe are considering moving to New Zealand, it might give you a bit of an idea of what life is like here. And for you guys who live in New Zealand, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments on how accurate you think I am. But this is all from my personal experience after living here for the last 6 months. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing that they do not tell you is how low the wage is. Now, maybe they do tell you a little bit, because I did expect this when coming to New Zealand. Like I said, I was in Australia for 2 years before, and Australia, from what I've seen, literally paid the best wage out of anywhere I've been. The money in Australia is really, really good. They pay very high. Moving to New Zealand, I knew the wage would be pretty low, but it's quite a bit lower than what it is in Australia. I worked out on average, I was saving an extra $200 a week in Australia compared to here, which is a lot when you add it up. That's an extra $1,000 a month and like an extra $12,000 a year, which is a lot. It's a big difference. And to be honest, it's hard to go from, I'm working a very similar job here to what I was in Australia. And when you're getting paid that much less for pretty much the same sort of job, yeah, it's pretty hard. But that's just one of the downsides, and it's something which I think some people know, that the wage isn't as good here, but was definitely worse than I expected. But it does depend what you're doing. Like, you can get good wages here, but when you're looking at the majority of jobs, Australia pay a lot more. I think it's a very similar wage to the UK, which isn't really that great either. The second thing that they do not tell you about New Zealand is how easy it is to find a house. Now, we got very used to the struggles of finding a house in Australia. Sometimes it would take us weeks. We'd have to go to 5, 10 viewings trying to find our own place was very difficult, but even trying to find a house share could be difficult at times. And we got very used to the struggles of not being able to find a house. And we were almost prepared for that again in New Zealand, but we applied for a house online. We were traveling Southeast Asia, so it was before we even got to New Zealand. We applied for this house and we literally got the place before we even arrived in New Zealand, which we did not expect, to be honest. You definitely would not get that in Australia. We didn't expect that in Australia. Like, I feel like because there's so many people moving there now, it is hard to find a house. In New Zealand, a lot of young people do leave. In fact, a lot of people in general do leave New Zealand, and it means there's a lot more apartments, and getting this lined up before we got here was a massive positive, to be honest. We're used to staying in hostels for the first couple of weeks when we get to a new country. We only had to do one night in a hostel, and then we were straight in here the next day, which is very good because you wouldn't be getting that in Australia. The next point is how expensive food is. I didn't expect this, to be honest. Australia and the UK are also expensive for food, but New Zealand is the worst out of all of them for sure. It doesn't help that there isn't like a budget supermarket here like an Aldi. I know there's Pack and Save, but there's not any of them near me at all. So I've been shopping at Woolworths, which is so expensive, like the most expensive food shops I've ever done. It did shock me when I first moved here, and it's definitely one thing that you should expect when you move to New Zealand, is you're going to be spending quite a bit of money on your food shop. The next point is how inconsistent the weather is. I knew compared to Australia and stuff, it wasn't going to be as sunny and dry as it is there, but for about 9 months of the year, it's very inconsistent. The last couple of months have been okay because it's been summer. It's actually been fairly dry and sunny every day, but up until about December, it was very, very inconsistent. I've never seen so much rain, but then it would be raining one minute, sunny the next minute, then it would be windy, then it would be freezing cold. It really is one of them places where you get 4 seasons in one day. Now, this does depend on where you are in New Zealand. I think the South Island, from what I've heard, is actually a bit sunnier, but here on the North Island, yeah, you can't really plan that much outside unless it's summer, because it's very, very inconsistent. And I've never seen somewhere that rains so much, like even more rain than the UK, which is pretty mad. And the last point is that isolation hits hard. Now, If you look at a map of the world, it's no shock that New Zealand is very isolated, but it feels very isolated for some reason. Living in Australia, I didn't really find it so much. I know I'm comparing so much to Australia in this video, but it's where I've lived before, so that's what I'm going to compare it to, that in the UK. I lived in Perth, which was one of the most isolated major cities in the world, and that did not feel anywhere near as isolated as New Zealand. It feels a lot more isolated here, maybe because it's a bit quieter as well. There's less events going on. They don't have certain things here like Amazon. Like, I was looking for Apple headphones the other day, they don't even have an Apple store here, and stuff like that. It's just there's less going on, and I think it adds to the overall isolated feel as well as how quiet it is. Also, there is not many backpackers at all. Australia is full of English travellers, but in New Zealand there is not many travellers at all. And yeah, I didn't really expect that. I thought there would be more. I know there is more when you get down to like Queenstown and stuff, but in Auckland, the biggest city, I thought there would be a lot of English travellers like there is in the Australian cities, but yeah, there isn't many travellers here at all. And yeah, it does have a lonely sort of vibe being out here. Yeah, I think they're very just out here on their own. So they are 5 things about New Zealand that shocked me when I moved here. Some things that, yeah, I didn't expect, and maybe they don't tell you before you actually move here. Some of these things won't bother everyone. If you've got plenty of money saved and the wage isn't a priority, then you're gonna be fine. If you like a quiet life, perhaps slightly cooler weather, and yeah, money's not an issue, New Zealand can be a great option. And I've said in the past that I think Australia is better for travellers, for backpackers, particularly people who want to make good money and stuff. Australia is a better option. But for families, people who want to relax life, New Zealand is definitely a great option, but I would take these points into consideration before you move here. So thank you for watching. That was my little review, things that I didn't expect here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you very soon with another video.